Hello, everybody, and welcome to our webinar today. This is the fourth webinar in our free membership growth online summit 2017. And every day this week at 2 p.m. Eastern Time, we've had a top expert on sharing the growth strategies used by successful organizations to grow and to keep growing, especially in today's world where, as we all know, it's harder and harder to get anyone's attention. And this afternoon, there we go, we have David Mundy on with us, and David is the Director of Marketing at GuideStar. And for those of you who don't know, GuideStar is the world's largest source of information on nonprofit organizations, and we're really pleased to have David here with us today to show us how the top nonprofits are marketing in today's world. And we'll bring David on very shortly. In the meantime, I want to introduce myself to those of you who are attending your first summit webinar this week. There I am on the left of your screen. My name is Donald Cowper, and I'm here at Wild Apricot on the content team, and beside me is my colleague Rano, and he's here with us today to help you with any technical issues you might have. And when he's not here at Wild Apricot, he apparently likes to sit in a canoe on the ground like he's doing here in that picture. I'm not sure why he likes to do that, but he's not doing that right now. He's sitting right beside me. He's here with us, and he's here to help you. So please, during the webinar, feel free to ask any questions to us or to David. And to do that, you can use the chat box. I want to make a couple of quick reminders before we move on. First, I want to let you know that we are recording this webinar and the other summit webinars this week, and we'll be sending you an email with a link to all the recordings. We're going to do that next week, though, so please watch out for that. And for those of you who collect and earn CIE credits, you can get 1 credit for today's webinar and 1 credit for any other webinars you attend this week. Okay, so we'll get going in just another couple minutes, but let me briefly say that today's webinar is being brought to you by Wild Apricot, or Wild Apricot, as some people call us. And I know that lots of our customers are here with us, and many of you have been with us during other webinars this week. I want to say hello again. We always have new people with us, though, so I want to welcome you to the Wild Apricot world, and thanks for being here. And if everyone who is already familiar with Wild Apricot could just bear with me for just a quick moment, I'll tell our new people that Wild Apricot is membership management software. It's actually an all-in-one solution for anyone running a membership organization, and that's because you can manage your member and contact database, you can run your events, build your website, process all your payments, and much more. And many of our customers love the software because of how much time it saves them. It automates a lot of the administrative tasks that eat up their day, and that frees them up to focus on fulfilling their organization's mission. And at Wild Apricot, we've all enjoyed watching many of our customers grow and accomplish all sorts of good in the world, and they've watched us grow too since we started 10 years ago, over 10 years ago. And thanks to our customers, we've been ranked as the #1 rated membership management software solution on the market. And as this slide tells you, we've been ranked #1 for the last 5 years. We're really proud of that, of course, here at Wild Apricot, and we like helping people with great software, but we are also a leading provider of free educational content, like today's webinar. And if any of you, whether you're an existing customer and you're already with us, or if you're new and you have questions about Wild Apricot, I want you to know that we're happy to answer those questions, but we'll do that at the end of the webinar, at the top of the hour. So feel free to stick around with us. We'll be here. We're here to help. So now let me introduce today's presenter. So David Mundy is the Director of Marketing at GuideStar, where he develops and executes engagement strategies in the nonprofit sector by using a funnel approach. And I know he's going to talk about that today. And when he uses a funnel approach, he has a specific focus in behavioral marketing. He's also the marketing project manager for 5 key programs at GuideStar, including e-commerce, direct sales, philanthropic partnerships, nonprofit profiles and donations. And I'm going to bring David on right now. Hello, David. Welcome. It's wonderful to have you here with us today. It's been great working with you leading up to this moment, and here we are. So I'm going to pass it over to you. Thanks so much, David.
Muted.
Thank you very much, Donald and Wild Apricot. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Navigating Nonprofit Marketing. I want to thank you for being here today and for allowing me to present what I've learned in my 10 years of marketing, almost 5 of which have been in the nonprofit sector. So here is a brief rundown of what we're going to go over today. I'll be taking you through what marketing is, as well as how and why it's especially applicable to nonprofits. I'll show you ways to approach various forms of branding, and we'll get into how nonprofits should approach marketing both strategically and tactically. Then we'll get into a free and awesome nonprofit marketing tool. And let me stress, free and awesome. Then, of course, we'll figure out or finish out with some questions if there are any, and if there's time. So first things first, the introduction. I will try to keep it brief. My name, again, is David Mundy. I've been in marketing for going on 10 years, as I said previously. I started in small business, then moved into higher education. I've now settled into the nonprofit sector. I have 2 dogs, a beautiful wife, and of course my favorite person in the world, my daughter Lily, as you can see here on the slide. I'm the director of marketing for this organization, GuideStar. If you are unfamiliar, GuideStar's mission is to promote transparency throughout the nonprofit sector while encouraging intelligent giving by gathering, disseminating, and displaying information about every IRS-registered nonprofit. So this is a GuideStar nonprofit profile. This is the free and awesome nonprofit marketing tool that I'm going to get into a bit more towards the end of the webinar. But before we jump in, I'd like to find out a little bit about what marketing tactics or strategies you guys are most interested in learning about today. So this is just a quick question to get things started. Don, would you mind launching the poll?
Unmuted.
Yeah, I most certainly will. Okay, some of you will see a little black box on your screen. Just ignore that, thank you. That's the control panel. It probably shouldn't be blocking your screen, but it does. So I'm going to launch the poll now. Okay, so you should see a question come up, and on your screen, just select the answer that is appropriate for you. So what marketing tactics are you most interested in learning about today? You've got branding, search engine optimization, we call that SEO, optimizing user experience, UX, outreach, that could be blogs, social media, advertising, partnerships, influencers, and other. And I guess if it is other, maybe you can just fill in the chat box with what that might be. So I will keep the poll running for just a little bit longer, give everybody a moment to put in their answer, but I'm going to wrap it up very shortly, so I'll just do a little quick countdown. Try to get your answer in. Okay, thank you, everybody. So 3, 2, 1. I'm going to close the poll, and I'm going to share the results. And David, if you can see them.
That I can. Thank you very much.
Great.
Awesome. Great results. 11% of you are interested in branding, 9% in SEO or search engine optimization, 18% in user experience, 59% in outreach, which is great because a lot of this presentation is geared specifically towards that, and 2% of you are interested in other. Thanks. I really do appreciate you guys filling out the poll and the great results. It's very interesting. Like I said, or like Donald said, those who may be interested in strategies or tactics that aren't on this webinar today, I'm happy to speak with you more about marketing in your organization. Phil, if you add your questions to the interest in the chat window, Donald will send out an email later and we can conversate about what you'd like to learn more about.
I'll just hide the poll now so you can get back to your slides, David.
Thank you. All right, now for the fun stuff. So What is marketing? Marketing, as defined by the American Association of Marketing, is the activity, set of institutions, and processes for creating, communicating, delivering, and exchanging offerings that have value for customers, clients, donors, partners, and society at large. So my definition of marketing is a tad bit different. Marketing to me is attracting attention to and building demand for what you've created while engaging with your specific users. Or, in more nonprofit terms, marketing is attracting and informing people about your mission, engaging with those users, then converting those who care about your cause to give some sort of value to your organization. So, let's get two things straight before we move on. Number one, marketing is just as applicable to .org as it is to .com. And number two, a nonprofit can and should approach marketing the same way as, if not better than, and probably better than, a for-profit. So look, marketing with a limited budget, it's a familiar story for most nonprofits. Here at GuideStar, we struggle with our own budget constraints all the time. Time is also often limited. So the question we need to always be asking ourselves is, how can we convert our limited time and resources into the most money or into the most positive results? Now, it's not easy, but it is achievable. So this webinar is going to provide low-cost, evergreen strategies that are going to make remarkable impact as long as we stay engaged with them. So you might be asking yourself, how big of an impact can marketing really have on my organization? The answer, very big. You may still have some residual doubts about the power of marketing, and you may still be concerned about diverting resources from your program. But the purpose of digital marketing is to generate more resources with which to work towards your mission. Those resources can include board members and volunteers, as well as donations. And not long ago, marketing was barely a distinct function. It rarely often did it align with the rest of an organization's aims. However, nowadays, marketing has become this rapid, innovative growth machine that exists for engagement. It navigates pitfalls in just about any landscape, and it's directly entangled into really all business operations. So digital marketing can be an immensely powerful tool for nonprofits. To help illustrate this point a bit, I'll be using a bit of GuideStar's digital marketing journey. So I realize that every organization is different, and we all need to create and evolve strategies to meet our own users' needs. But I really hope that you'll be able to apply key points from this presentation and GuideStar's experience to your own organization. Now, whether you're in the beginning or latter parts of your digital marketing journey, you should always be asking yourself, what does my nonprofit promise? This can be focused on your mission statement and even dive a bit deeper. When contemplating the answer to that question, I advise you to embrace your empathetic nature. All right, so there's my babe again. She is definitely a hugger. So, why do you embrace your empathetic nature? Because marketing is a service. A service equals empathy. Therefore, marketing equals empathy. Empathy is the ability to share or understand the feelings of others. It's an essential element of just about everyday relationships and can be equally powerful when it comes to organization, donor, or organization, customer relationships. So, how do we use empathy in marketing? E-Consultancy actually has a fantastic blog post on how brands are using empathy to enhance their own marketing. Donald, would you mind sharing that link with everyone in the chat window, please? So I hope everyone actually gets a chance to check out that blog post, because it's actually fantastic and gives you a lot of real-world examples.
Yep, and
now, as you
pasting it in. Oh, sorry, just saying that Rano's pasting it in now, so you should all be able to see it.
Thank you. As you guys position yourself to increase donations and funding, you want to keep your mission in mind. Marketing really plays on the art of being empathetic, and look, we're nonprofits and we do that already better than most. So you put yourself in the shoes of those you're trying to help. We've felt how they felt. We've been inspired to start a nonprofit or work for a charity to affect change. Now, put yourself in the shoes of the people who can help you fulfill your mission, and therein lies the art of being a marketer. How do you inspire these different personas to believe in your mission and help you help the world? As you work to understand those who need your help or need you to help your organization, you should be aware that we're currently living in an attention economy. The digital world is inundated with these creepy emojis, products, brands, kitten posters, and people seeking attention. Now, to attract eyes to your organization, you must be more interesting than your prospect's current subject of attention, whatever that may be. The best way to break a potential prospect's preoccupation is to incite a feeling of curiosity, wonder, concern, emotion of any kind. And there's the good news. Nonprofits tend to have a natural advantage provoking these feelings compared to their for-profit counterparts. Our missions are generally geared towards inspiring change and affecting emotion. But how do we get people to recognize us in this inundated attention economy? Ladies and gentlemen, we are currently experiencing nonprofit inundation. There's now a nonprofit for just about any obvious need. As Dana Goldstein, the founder of Philantech, said, existing organizations, particularly those that rely on outside funding in the form of donations and grants, are already competing for scarce dollars. I'm not here to argue the reasons for or against starting a nonprofit, but I am here to help you compete for those scarce dollars. And to begin competing, you need great branding. Now, I'm sure most of you here already have an organization brand, but even at GuideStar, we consider rebranding or the branding of specific products or initiatives all the time. Branding is the basis for how people perceive you and or your organization. And human perception is a huge area of study in marketing, and it's really what you're trying to affect with your brand. And once we associate a brand name with a category, it's near impossible to alter that perception. And here's some examples of that. Cotton swabs, we now call them for the most part Q-tips. Facial tissues, referred to as Kleenex. Internet search, back rub. Okay, well, that's what it used to be until Google rebranded from back rub to, obviously, Google. So here's some more examples of thoughtful branding. You've heard of Lego, from the Danish phrase legat, meaning play well. 7-Eleven, now this was once known as Totem Stores, and it's the convenience store chain that changed its name to 7-Eleven to reflect its extending operating hours, which were really unheard of at the time, from 7 a.m. to 11 p.m. Now that name really doesn't mean much anymore, since I think just about all 7-Elevens are pretty much 24 hours a day, but it's too well recognized a brand for the company to be concerned about that literal accuracy anymore. And then you have Skype. First, it was Sky peer-to-peer. That doesn't really roll off the tongue. Then the name was the Skyper. Finally, the founders renamed it Skype. And on that day, a new verb, Skyping, was born. So once you've established your brand, you'll need a logo. Now, a logo is simply a visual representation of your organization that people will associate with your brand. This is going to allow for easier memory recall, and it promotes instant public recognition. Basically, it helps you get found more easily in that inundated attention economy we spoke about earlier. Now, all that really matters is that your logo is aesthetically pleasing, easy to see, process, and recall. Some marketers fuss over logos a lot, but from a business perspective, it's really somewhat trivial. What really matters is the brand. Seth Godin says, the brand is the sum of the promises we make, the stories we convey, and the expectations that we want donors to believe we will fulfill. And that leads us into slogans. Now, I've gotten into a tremendous amount of debates with people about slogans. I think a startup of any kind should, at least initially, always have a slogan attached to its logo and brand name. A lot of them don't. Now think GuideStar. You may not know what our organization is by name alone. Now imagine if we created a slogan. Think GuideStar Nonprofit Intelligence. Suddenly, our promise becomes a bit more intuitive. So the purpose of a slogan is to support pass-along or word-of-mouth advertising. It should answer that question, why should I support your brand? So if a donor is talking to his friends about your brand and they ask, why should we support them? His response should be, your slogan. So think of the problem your organization solves or is working to solve, and then use that as your guide for your name and your slogan. But really, in my opinion, setting up a think tank amongst your friends or colleagues will help you find a slogan or a name or a logo really faster than most anything else. And now we've reached the point where we can start to build a marketing strategy, starting with 5 steps that I put together. Now, 5 steps might not seem like a lot, as marketing has become incredibly arduous with ever-evolving technologies, strategies, data, and even more data, but it's also become incredibly beneficial and necessary. Being able to analyze, track, and monitor your organization's visitor behavior, all the way down to any and every dollar contributed to your bottom line definitively shows that. As Scott Brinker, the author of Hacking Marketing, wrote, we've entered the golden age of marketing. And these 5 steps are going to help you get started. Step 1, seemingly easy, but can be incredibly difficult. Define your goals and objectives. Do you want to increase visits to your site, attract more social media followers, increase leads, revenue, donations, members by 20%? Whatever your goals and objectives are, make sure they're quantifiable so you can track trends and progress and then gauge the results of these strategies, and you can even pivot when necessary. With step 2, you're going to need to track your progress. If you haven't done so already, I recommend setting up Google Analytics for your website to get started tracking site visitors, page views, impressions, etc. I'd also recommend signing up for Google Trends. Now, this uses real-time search data and helps you gauge consumer search behaviors over time. And then I'd recommend signing up for Google Alerts or Social Mentions, depending on your preference. This will allow you to track whenever your organization is mentioned online. On-page optimization. Now, this is the practice of optimizing individual web pages to rank higher and earn more relevant traffic in search engines. Search engine optimization, or SEO, has become an increasingly ubiquitous digital marketing strategy designed to make your content appear higher in search engine results like Google, Bing, Yahoo. Many organizations, however, neglect on-page optimization, and this neglect can impede web traffic growth. So Jonathan Long, who's the founder of Market Domination Media, he created a fantastic SEO guide to help organizations get started. Donald, would you mind sharing again the link to this guide so everyone can read it, please? So all of these tips make your landing pages more navigable for Google's and other search engines' web crawlers, thus giving you a higher ranking based on applicable keywords. So let's go over a few of Jonathan's tips. And I realize some of these are going to be a bit self-explanatory, but I'll try to get through them as quickly as I can. So SEO-friendly URLs. So URLs should always include the targeted keyword. You can see a brief example of that in my blog post URL to the right here. Navigating digital nonprofit marketing, and then, of course, in the URL, navigating and digital nonprofit and nonprofit marketing. You have authority outbound links. Now, this is linking from your page to relevant high-authority websites, and this can also help your content rank higher in search engine results. Page title, you want to include your targeted keyword in the title of the page. H1 and H2 tags. Now, these are header tags, so header 1 and header 2. Again, you want to make sure to include your target keyword in both H1 and H2 tags on the page. You can start to see a trend in where I'm going with these keywords. The H1 tag is usually your headline. The H2 tag generally designates the next largest subheading after the headline. Website speed. So you want to make sure that your site loads quickly. I think Google's new algorithm optimizes that at under 3 seconds. But luckily, they have a free platform you can use called Google Speed Test, which will allow you to monitor and check the speed, how quickly your website loads. Social media sharing. So acquire natural links back to your site and provide social sharing buttons on any piece of content you produce. Keywords at the beginning of page content. You want to use your target keyword in the content at the beginning of the page. Again, this will help you rise in the search engine links as Google's or Yahoo's or Bing's bots crawl over your page. Image alt attribution. So this is, you want to provide an alt tag for all the images on your site. You want to make sure the alt tag includes, again, your keyword. So on one of my blog posts, for example, an image of, let's say, the marketing funnel I created that I think you're going to see in a few slides, that would have an alt tag that reads, navigating nonprofit marketing. So if anything, this makes the image identifiable to search engines and, of course, makes it identifiable when search engine bots crawl your website. Lastly, we have the on-page grader. So to get a good idea of how your on-page optimization stacks up, you want to check out an online resource such as Moz's on-page grader, which Donald will also be sharing. Now, the on-page grader is a great place to create one-off reports for your pages or see how a competitor's page is doing. The URL keyword combination is graded on an A to F scale, just like in grade school, to give you an idea of how optimized it is for ranking purposes. Now, having an A doesn't guarantee that you're going to rank in search engine result pages or SERPs, but it does increase your chances pretty significantly considering you're meeting all or the majority of the criteria that these search engines tend to use. Now, this leads us perfectly into step number 4, optimizing user experience. User experience, or UX, refers to how easily navigable and understandable your site is, how fast or how easily a visitor can engage in whatever action is offered to. This process can be as simple as making sure your landing pages are clear and concise with intuitively navigable conversion or registration points. So pretend you're a first-time visitor. Does your page load quickly? Do the hyperlinks, the tabs, or the pull-down menus work? Are the content and next steps easily navigable? Was there an easy transition to the next page? Now, assuming you've already built a website, focusing on UX should require little cost, but will pay huge dividends. And I just can't stress enough how important UX is to optimizing your marketing funnel. If marketing's purpose is to attract attention to, engage with, and build demand for what you've created, then you want to attract, educate, engage, and convert your users as fluidly as possible. So Qualu recommends focusing primarily on 2 aspects of UX. Number 1, reducing friction in the form of wasted clicks, excess pages, false starts, going to the wrong page, slow page loads, and other friction points that cause users to just give up and bounce from your site. Number 2, reducing cognitive overhead. Now, this is another version of friction. This puts doubt and indecision into the mind of your user, causing them to waver over whether to convert. In short, you just want to make sure your landing pages aren't too confusing. Clarity is of utmost importance. So to simplify things a bit, I tend to focus on 2 golden rules of UX. Number 1, eliminating distractions. Keep users focused on the main conversion point by eliminating or not including other distractions. There's a term for this called attention ratio. According to Unbounce, attention ratio is the ratio of links on a landing page to the number of campaign conversion goals. Now, we're going to get more into this on the next slide. The second golden rule, and this is my absolute favorite, and I stress this with my team constantly, always be testing. After you've built a solid landing page, A/B test it. An A/B test compares 2 versions of a web page and monitors which one performs better. Platforms such as Visual Website Optimizer and Optimizely are cost-effective ways to run these tests, and they use algorithms to find approximate statistical significance to your audience and what their preferences are on your website. All right, so let's go back to attention ratio for a second. Attention ratio is the proportion of things a visitor can do on a given page divided by the number of things that you want him or her to do. Ideally, you want a user to be able to take only 1 action per landing page. Only 1. I'm going to stress that one more time. You want a user to be able to take only 1 action per landing page. It's very tempting to inundate your landing pages with information. Even here at GuideStar, we struggle with it all the time. But the golden rule of your website landing page should be keep users focused on the main conversion point by eliminating or not even including other distractions. And then also remember, you don't want people to just visit your page. You want them to act once they're there. So make it as easy and compelling as possible for them and include these elements found in a landing page that converts. So you want a clear call to action. You want clarity in your offer, and that comes with a narrow focus, right? You want the user to be automatically focused on the purpose of the page. That includes your very important attributes. Bullet point them if you can. You want an effective headline. You want a resolution-savvy layout, tidy visuals, and then social proof. Now, this was written by Beth Morgan from Kissmetrics, and we're also sharing the link to her blog post so you can read about and even see the great examples of different organizations' optimized landing pages that she provides. So to reiterate, as you're eliminating distractions from your website, pretend you're a first-time visitor. What do you see? Does the point of each page come across readily? Is each page easily navigable? Can you convert on each page with ease? So I'd recommend keeping these 5 landing page elements in mind when optimizing your user experience. You want a strong headline. So these are the first words on a page and should draw the visitor into the rest of it. You want a powerful main image. Now this image should lure the visitor even deeper into your page, highlighting your value proposition and your call to action. and you also want very important attributes or your proof points. Now, this content provides more insight into the headline and explains the benefit the user receives by converting. The user doesn't want to read a novel, so we want to keep this content very narrow, very streamlined and guided, and that'll help increase conversion. So, and then your web forms and call to action. So a form should collect data to nurture your users down the funnel. A call to action, or a CTA, should push the user towards immediate conversion. You should use both buttons and text links if possible for CTA, and if your page is scrollable, you want to have at least 2 call to actions on the page. You really want a call to action to be visible to the user at all times while they're on the page. And lastly, we have testimonials or social proof. These are statements by previous users or partners or donors that validate your nonprofit and all the work you do. These testaments of what you've done are going to help encourage visitors to convert. It's like the monkey see, monkey do effect. And here we get to golden rule number 2, my favorite: always be testing. When you start your A/B test, change one and just one, and I'll reiterate that one more time. When you start your A/B test, change just one of the 5 landing page elements that we spoke about on the previous slide. And don't worry, you're going to be testing another element in the future. In fact, constantly testing and updating your site are the keys to increase conversion and the best way to avoid static results. And as you evaluate these A/B test results, start to map out the flow of users from outside of your sphere of influence to the first conversion point. These different traffic sources, they sometimes lend themselves to different levels of understanding and engagement. So think about how a user typically gets to our site. You have organic search, right? The user clicks into our site via an online search engine like Google, Bing, or Yahoo. They get a little snippet of information about who we are based upon their search, and then they come into our landing page, and we need to educate them. Social media, they get a little bit more information about who we are, and the user clicks into our site via a post. Blog or news article, if it's our own blog post or news article, the user clicks into a site via that blog post or article. They get more information about who we are. If it's a mention in someone else's blog post or article, they almost have no idea who we are, and it's our job to explain it to them in the most streamlined way. An ad or display ad, the user clicks into our site via paid online ad. Limited text, generally an image that portrays some sort of value proposition, so they have very limited information on who exactly we are as they come into our site. And then you have email. So if you're emailing users, chances are they've seen your site or they've opted in some way. People that self-select that they want to hear from you are some of your most important users. So it definitely behooves you to make sure they have the best site experience. Now, thinking about these different traffic sources leads us to the final step in getting started marketing: outreach. So here's where it gets very tactical. I've listed 6 categories of outreach that nonprofits can start with, and these next few slides are going to dig into each of them. But before we decide how to share our organization's messages, we all need to be sure that that message is carefully streamlined to resonate with our audiences. So do some research to determine the needs, the attitudes, and the motivations of your ideal supporters, or even better, create detailed personas. Now, creating personas will give you a good idea of what's emotionally relevant to your prospects and which outreach channels are likely to work best in reaching them. You can then craft a more compelling, persuasive pitch for your cause and then adapt it to the different audiences. Now, each of these personas represents a significant portion of people or your website users in the real world and enables a marketer to focus on a manageable and memorable group of users instead of focusing on thousands of different individuals. So GuideStar attracts more than 7 million unique users a year. And those users visit GuideStar for a wide variety of reasons. Now that's a lot of attention focused on many different parts of our organization. To best serve our users, we identified and segmented these visitors into about 17 different personas. Segmenting our audience in this way allows us to create a vast library of different messaging and content for our multiple value propositions, as well as a different user experience for each persona. With this tailored approach, we now can educate our users on how GuideStar can best help them achieve their goals on their site. Defining personas is one of the first steps in creating that top-down funnel approach to marketing, because once you decide the change you seek to make and who you're for, Then you get to transition to the conversation about how people will come to believe that you are the right answer. And that can be helped by influencers. Influencer marketing is a type of marketing that focuses on using key leaders to drive your brand's message to the larger market. So rather than marketing directly to a large group of consumers or donors, you instead want to inspire influencers to get the word out for you. Now, I suggest you make a list of influencers, partners, potential partners, and communities to target. So look up people that come to mind immediately, whether they may be a complementary organization or even the local guru in your cause area, and add them to your list. Now, Twitter has a great list feature. Many people use that, but you might want to start a spreadsheet that lists everyone and the respective social media platforms. Now, this is going to allow you to sort each by platform and to see which ones are most popular. This will help you guide your attention and focus as you build relationships with different influencer personalities and also potential brand ambassadors. So here's an extreme but a good example of influencer marketing. The Bubble Foundation, they partner with schools to foster healthy lifestyles for children, didn't have a clue what they were in for when they worked on the Wear Yellow for Seth campaign. Now, Seth was a young boy with a life-threatening autoimmune disease who happened to love the color yellow. His parents asked the world to wear yellow for Seth, to take a picture and share it using the hashtag so they could show Seth later on in various pictures. So this campaign exploded, especially once celebrity influencers like Ashton Kutcher got on board. Now again, this is an extreme example of influencer marketing, but you can see how the influencer boosted the results of the campaign. Most of us aren't going to be fortunate enough to have a celebrity endorse our brand, but that doesn't mean we can't get someone well-known in the cause area we're trying to affect. And you'll be happy to know that Seth is now a healthy, happy, I think 7 or 8-year-old boy that enjoys playing soccer and hanging out with his family. So that also leads us into strategic partnerships, and these are a little bit more tricky. Now, Classy has a great example or a great article about strategic partnerships. In a nonprofit's effort to boost efficiency, we can have a hard time turning up strategies that don't roll up our budget. What many people don't realize, though, is they don't have to go at it alone. Your nonprofit can address its pain points and enhance its operations by joining forces with another organization in a nonprofit partnership. Strategic nonprofit partnerships can offer a slew of attractive benefits, from improving outreach efforts to enhancing programs and services. There are just an infinite number of ways that an alliance can help your organization improve its efficacy, impact, and sustainability. But the first step to planning a partnership really is to clearly define what you want to get out of it. One of the main advantages of a nonprofit partnership, one of the main advantages it can offer is increased visibility for your brand. Natural cross-promotion allows you to easily reach another organization's network. So depending on the nature of the partnership, a partner can feature you on their website, on their social channels, their regular communications to their community, newsletters, etc. A strategic nonprofit partnership can also elevate your organization's credibility and support. By partnering with a well-known and trusted organization, you can increase your visibility and improve the public's perception of your own brand. Now, this can help you build trust, which is, of course, going to lead to increased support. So here's a good example, or a great example, actually, of a successful strategic partnership. Now, most importantly, both of these organizations' missions align. So Burst Cancer is a nonprofit that empowers athletes to fund childhood cancer research in local pediatric oncology programs. The V Foundation funds cancer research at prominent cancer centers across the nation. What makes this partnership particularly strategic is the way V Foundation's reputation validates Burst Cancer's efforts. So because the V Foundation is widely known within the athletic community, people that hear about breast cancer for the first time through the partnership, so through V Foundation, are more likely to trust the nonprofit. And this, of course, leads us into blogs, social media, and ads. I think it's safe to assume that most people are now aware of these 3 outreach channels, but I'm going to dig into each one just a little bit to make sure we're all using them efficiently or as efficiently as our budget allows. So creating a blog. If you don't already have one, this is going to help you share your organization's story. But a good blog has so many more benefits. A blog helps drive traffic to your website, and it also helps strengthen your social media presence by giving you specific content to share. Now, this is going to help you become a thought leader by sharing your content and other people's content as well on different platforms. So blog posts also help convert traffic into prospects too. So creating content to attract visitors, customers, donors to your site, that's an example of inbound marketing. Now, inbound marketing is a strategy, and it's one of the most cost-effective ways there is to convert strangers into prospects or strangers into donors. Adding a call to action at the bottom of every blog post will help you align your offering with your post and allow your readers to convert more easily and naturally. And lastly, blog posts help drive long-term results. Writing a blog post, it might help you get 100 views today, 50 views tomorrow, 25 views the next day, and so on. But that isn't all. Each blog post is one more page that online search engines index. You'll be driving more organic traffic to your website. Now your blog post is ranking in search engines. That means for days, weeks, months, and years to come, you can continue to get traffic from that single blog post. So while it may feel like a blog post is day one or bust, blogging can continue to bring people to your website long after you publish the post. Social media. Now, most people are familiar with this nowadays, but they still aren't utilizing the full potential power of the different platforms. Social media allows you to interact with customers or donors, spread ideas, advertise promotions, and then explain how people benefit from being connected to your network or organization. Communicating through social media is an immensely powerful tool. It makes your donors feel valued and that their opinions are heard, and this ultimately creates a relationship between them and your organization. Now, you should always strive to initiate and facilitate conversations on social media platforms. Focus on the big ones first, the Facebook and Twitter. Now, after the conversations, analyze that feedback. Turn that feedback into user-generated content to be shared across all your platforms using your blog. Now, as for paid advertising, getting people to visit your website is essential to your organization's success. Pay-per-clicks, or PPCs, are a method of online advertising in which you pay for visitors on a cost-per-click basis. So Facebook and Google currently dominate the paid advertising market, not only in revenue earned, but in client and donor conversion as well. So I would suggest testing a low-cost paid advertising strategy that will provide you with a statistically significant sample size. This will allow you to gauge easily the effectiveness and the return on investment without breaking your budget. And back to Google Analytics, this is going to help you find the keywords you need to target your most applicable audience and will help you branch out of that sphere of influence. And speaking of your sphere of influence, do you remember this slide from earlier in the presentation? Now, what you're looking at, if you're not familiar, is a GuideStar nonprofit profile. So what kind of marketer would I be if I wasn't at least a little self-serving and pushing my own organization? Now, I'm kidding, kind of, but GuideStar's nonprofit profiles, in my opinion, are the best free marketing tool a nonprofit can utilize. And I'll stress that one more time. Nonprofit profiles are really the best free marketing tool a nonprofit can utilize. So we at GuideStar encourage nonprofits to share information about their organizations openly and completely. So any nonprofit in our database can update its nonprofit profile for free. Just 10 minutes of your time allows you to tell your nonprofit story your way. And we take that updated information and the information from your 990 and we send it out amongst our partner networks, which consist of companies you've probably heard of: Amazon Smile, Facebook, Network for Good, and more than 200 others. So let that sink in for a minute. You spend 10 minutes to update your profile, and not only do you make your organization's story more visible to GuideStar's 9 million users, but also Amazon Smile, Facebook, Network for Good, and 200 other organizations like them, as well as computer applications used by funding entities and private companies that work with nonprofits. Now think back to the different outreach strategies I just spoke about. GuideStar acts as an influencer by sending your organization's information to all of our partner networks. While not a direct strategic partnership, obtaining a GuideStar seal of transparency gains your organization more credibility and gives you content to share in your blog and on your social media. As for the seals you see in front of you, the more information you enter about your organization, the higher the seal of transparency you receive. Both donors and funders appreciate organizations committed to transparency. So we're also sharing the link to claim and update your nonprofit profile if you're interested. And I'm serious, 10 minutes for free, and your information begins to populate some of the biggest giving sites on the web. Wherever you are in your marketing journey, I hope that you find some value and you can put some of the tactics we went over today to good use. If you take away anything from this presentation, GuideStar profile, no, I'm kidding. If you take away anything from this presentation, I want it to be the realization that marketing is just as applicable to .org as it is to .com. And a nonprofit can and should approach marketing the same way, better than a for-profit. Thank you very much for attending my presentation with Wild Apricot. If you want a deeper dive into navigating nonprofit marketing, check out the links to the different resources that were shared in that chat window. You should also check out my blog series, which Donald will share, which not only gets into specific marketing tactics and strategies, but also lists a wide variety of other educational marketing resources in case you get bored with me. I think we have a few minutes for Q&A, so if you have any questions, please type them in the chat window, and Donald and I will try our best to get to them. Thank you very much.
Thank you, David. Yeah, we have quite a few questions. So one thing is, obviously you're using a lot of language that has really come up in the last few years that pertains to digital marketing. So there's a few questions on, like, maybe you could clarify landing page and call to action. What do you mean by those terms? Because those kind of anchor the whole thing in the digital marketing world, and some of us are very familiar with them, and some people are new to the whole digital marketing space. So maybe you could talk about that for just a little bit. Definitely. So landing page to start is a specific endpoint for any of your outreach channels, right? So say you have for example, say you have a social media post or even an ad. Let's do an ad. You have an ad out there about your organization. Now, oftentimes that ad has to have a conversion point with it, right? You're trying to convert a user into something from that advertisement, right? You've paid money to get that advertisement out. So you don't necessarily want to send them to the homepage of your organization, because that creates a lot of opportunities for the user. It's not very streamlined. It's not narrow. And oftentimes they'll bounce out without fully understanding what you're offering from that direct ad. So then that's where the landing pages come in. So a landing page should be a part of your website, one single page on your website that the user gets to from any outreach channel, which specifically focuses, specifically has a narrow focus on the one thing you're trying to, we'll use sell for lack of a better word here. So you go from advertisement to one page that gives you a few bullet points in a paragraph and a call to action about that. An example would be if you see, we offer a compensation report at GuideStar. That's a report about all the executive compensation levels throughout the country for various nonprofits. So if we have an ad out for a compensation report, we'll be sending users to a landing page that specifically devotes its content to that compensation report. On that page comes a call to action. Now that call to action, or CTA, is going to be a button or a link of some sort that allows the user to convert to the next step. Now that next step could be a web form in which you get their information. That's a conversion point. Or it takes them right, if you sell products, it takes them into a shopping cart for which they can purchase. Or if you're offering, or if you're asking for donations, it takes them to a form which they can fill out for donations. That was helpful. Here's a question someone's asking for your opinion, David, on scrolling homepage versus non-scrolling, and maybe you could just quickly define that before share your opinion.
Oh man, yeah, I'm gonna get in trouble here, because if you guys go over to GuideStar, we have a lot of scrolling pages. Actually, our UX designer is very, very fond of them, but I will speak candidly. So we use some of those resources I offered, like Visual Website Optimizer and Optimizely. Those monitor your A/B tests, but they also monitor traffic on your page using heat maps and interaction points. So you can see where people are scrolling, what they're clicking on, what they're looking at. And we've done that test with our homepage, and the results were astounding, right? So if you have 100% of the people that come to your homepage, right, 100% are going to see above the fold. Now, above the fold in this circumstance, or is in this regard, is everything on the first thing you see on the main screen. Our traffic dropped off by 60% by the next page, and by that third scrollable page, we were down to 3%. So that means in any given month, we have probably 40,000 users hit that home page. That means only 3% of them got to the bottom of that page. And we do have call to actions, and we have important information at the bottom of that page that we just found out, honestly, within the last 6 months, people weren't even seeing. But we still have scrollable pages, and we're doing our best to try to figure out what's next. And I mean, that's the thing with marketing. It's ever evolving. So we know and we realize that scrollable pages aren't working. So I'd recommend putting anchor links somewhere in the top of that page above the fold that automatically and intuitively gets people to the bottom of the page. So instead of making them have to scroll, put a link or put 3 links that anchor down to different sections of your page and allow the user to get there easily.
That's great advice. Another question here is, I like this question, what's the best way to learn the best types of marketing strategies for free? And this person is saying we have a very limited budget, like 0. So I know you've included some free resources that you shared, but maybe you have other ways that people can learn about digital marketing.
Yeah, no, definitely. I would, look, this is going to be self-serving again, but for nonprofits especially, I'd say check out my blog series. My contact information is in some of those blogs, so if you disagree, please write me an email and tell me all about it. I love the feedback. But also in those blog series, I list at least 5 links in every one to different resources and to everywhere I get my information. So a lot of my blog series are tips that I've picked up over the last 10 years and the 5 years in the nonprofit sector. But it's also me working with some big names in marketing that exist today, and I aggregate a lot of the information that I read about on the web, and I put it in the blog post as well. So I would start there, and really, if we can, somehow, if we can send resources out in the email follow-up to this, and I can send you to a whole library of marketing content that's completely free. It's on the web. The name escapes me right now, so I can dive deeper into it after the webinar. But it's all free content that'll help you get started on your marketing journey.
David, if you could send me that, I can send that out in an email.
Yeah, definitely.
Follow up next.
Definitely.
And maybe we can squeeze in another 1 or 2 questions. So, so here's somebody saying that they love what you've talked about today. And then as a practical next step, how and where do we find a company or individual that is savvy enough to help them turn things around? So if you have any advice there, what kind of individual should they be looking at? Maybe a firm, agency, whatever. What are your thoughts there to get people started?
All right, so I'm a very frank and candid person, all right? And I apologize right now for what I'm about to say, but I am not a fan of consulting agencies for the most part. Now, I've worked with a few good ones, but consulting agencies don't generally have your best interest in mind. Again, that's generalizing. Some of them do. But for the most part, you want to go out there and you want to find an individual, and there's no silver bullet for, or a good, just a good candidate, and there's no silver bullet for that. I mean, it takes, due diligence and a lot of interviewing, finding a person that not only understands your organization, they have to be passionate about your cause area, they have to be very studious. I mean, marketing is, I probably read at least 5 different business or marketing books a month. Just to keep up with the evolving technologies, the strategies, what's next. Right now I'm big on behavioral marketing. You have artificial intelligence that's coming down the pipeline. Chatbots are everywhere right now. So you just want somebody that's constantly learning and that's really passionate about what you do and not just in it for a paycheck. I mean, for the nonprofit sector especially, that's really the best advice I can give.
Great. Thank you, David. I like the frank advice. Okay, so we're just a few minutes to the top of the hour. So actually, I'll just do one very, very quick question because people are asking about keywords. So what kind of resources would you send people to learn about keywords, what kind of keywords they should try to rank for and that type of thing?
Well, look, I'd say my blog post again, but I'll actually make it easier on you. Google itself has thousands of blog posts, all free. None of it's gated content, so you can just open up the site and they talk all about keywords. Not only that, but they offer free platforms on how you can find keywords that are applicable to you and you can even find some of those resources I sent or I talked about earlier when I was talking about Google Analytics. Those even offer keywords that you can use relative to how people are searching either your specific organization, your cause area, or anything else that pertains to your specific organization. So I definitely start with Google content, Google search, Google keywords, and then it'll just lead you into a rabbit hole, and 3 weeks from now, you'll become somewhat of an expert on how Google views keywords.
And I will say, please, I do recommend everybody look for David's blogs on as a series on navigating nonprofit marketing. It's actually, I was mesmerized reading that. It is kind of, he puts it all there for you, makes it easy for you to follow and to learn, and it's a fantastic resource. It's actually why we brought David on to this webinar today. So thanks, David, for putting that blog post together and for being here. Lots of resources. We'll share what we can following up. So now that we're just a few minutes to the top of the hour, I want to say thank you, David. I learned a lot, as I always do when we get a chance to connect. I hope everybody else did, and by the comments that we're getting here, it seems like they did. So as mentioned, because David did cover a lot of ground, at the very least, we're going to share the recording with everybody in a follow-up email. We'll do that next week once we can process everything. That's after the summit is over, so please look out for that. Another thing that everyone can do, you're all welcome to join our Facebook group, and Rano's going to put a link in there. And this is a group where there's over a couple thousand members, and it's really an opportunity to connect with your peers, and you can carry on the conversation with the topics that we brought on, we've talked about today, and everyone likes to help each other there. So if you've got questions, you can just ask in the group, and somebody is likely to share their experience and their advice. So head on over there if you'd like. And for people who do want to have questions for Wild Apricot, we're here to answer those. And I also just want to cover off some free resources for you folks. If you're new to Wild Apricot, please check out our academy. Rano's going to put the link in there. That's where you can find more webinars, including recordings of all our past webinars there. I recommend you also take a look at our blog and articles. There's lots of helpful content about growing your membership, running successful events, recruiting volunteers, and marketing, and so on. All of that content is free. So between GuideStar and Wild Apricot, let's say we have you covered. Rano's got the link in there for you. You can just the other thing we have for you that is also free is if you're running a membership organization, whether that's a nonprofit, could be an association or club or any type of organization, you're welcome to try our software at no cost for 30 days as well. Feel free to take advantage of this opportunity, especially if you're looking for ways to automate a lot of the tasks that consume your life. Rano's got the link in there. You can click on that. You'll come to our website, put in your email, your name, your organization name, and you're ready to start your free trial. Also, if you'd like to receive a call from one of our coaches, they're happy to chat with you for free. Just put your number in the chat box, and I'll make sure that one of our coaches can get in touch with you. And now we are at the top of the hour, but as I said earlier, if you're a Wild Apricot customer, if you're new to Wild Apricot, you have any kind of questions about that, before you jump over to Facebook, if that's what you want to do, I'm going to pass the mic over to Rano, and he's here to answer any questions you might have, and maybe some of what David talked about inspired you to think of things you could do on your own website with your Wild Apricot account and how that might help. So here is Rano. Thank you, everybody. I enjoyed the webinar immensely. Thanks for being here, and thank you, David. We'll connect later. Cheers.